imagine like you have a dog or cat in pain. It's so easy for us to still understand that they are in pain because they vocalize, they bite, they do things. But then there are other creatures out there like snakes, okay, reptiles. And it was a very interesting thing for me in my life. Like I said, these animals, so many animals have touched my lives. And I was just giving another webinar somewhere, and I was making this pain, the slides, and like I was so awed by these animals that came into my life. And I said I should give special reference. Then on Monday when I'm writing a book, it's going to be a lot of animals that have crossed my path and given me this, made me the person and sensitive person that I am. So we had this monitor lizard that came to us. She was egg bound. She had 21 eggs, and reptiles get egg bound, meaning if they get hypocalcemic or nutritionally deficient, they cannot give birth. And most of the times, these animals, these eggs could be unfertile eggs. So that's a metabolic disorder, and they have those eggs inside them. And this little girl was found by somebody on the streets somewhere, and then was completely dehydrated. Got to the Thana Forest Department and the Thana for SPCA. I work with them in close knits for wildlife, so they refer a lot of cases to me since I do exotic animals. So they just sent this animal to me, and my God, I was shocked when I saw the x-rays and I saw that this poor animal was egg bound. I felt so bad. So we began, with the help of my friends abroad overseas, I started working. So I did have the good fortune again, like when I go to the US. So when I went on the board of the IVAPM, I got to go every 6 months to the United States at the cost of the academy and learn new things, explore new horizons, and learn more things about pain management, which are recently researched upon. So basically, I got an insight to whatever was happening everywhere else in the world, the top-notch things that happened about pain management, which actually, like, it was amazing to know what all people do even in developed countries for pain management, and I could replicate that in my country. Basically, the whole idea of the academy is that to help veterinarians and people understand pain and use that in their own countries. That's why it's an international academy. So when I used to go over there, I used to also work in exotic animal clinics and gain a lot of knowledge. So I worked with Dr. Hess in one of her practices, and I met a lot of like-minded veterinarians who were doing exotic animal work. So that just helped me get in touch with more people. Then there is an Exoticons, which is a special thing that happens every year. It's an event, it's an academic event where a lot of experts come and they teach you about exotic animals. And I participated in that and got a lot of more knowledge than what I have, like in surgeries, doing surgeries of birds and all. So I connected to a lot of wildlife people, and then when this lizard came to me, I connected back to them, asking them for help, and it was really amazing because the kind of feedback I got from them, and I started treatment in the animal, and in about 2 months, like it was 2 months long wait, and the first 1 month was like we were losing this animal. We didn't know what to do. We had to open her up to get the eggs out, but it was not a simple surgery. Getting an IV line in an animal, understanding the respiratory heartbeats when you're doing treatment, because reptiles are so still, and this reptile would not blink an eye. Her eyes were completely shut for 1 month. That's how different they are. Their metabolism is so much different. And she used to pass worms out in her fecal material. I would tube feed her. She was just like there, but I never gave up hope. And after exactly 44 days, she popped out the first egg, and we caught that on our camera. And it was like, oh my God. And the next day she opened her eyes. It was like, oh my God, we see heaven. Then she kept popping the eggs out till they were 21 days. Then we checked whether they were fertile or no to be able to incubate them. And it was so exciting, like, to be able to help. And Lizzie became, and the first time she actually walked that dragon walk in the clinic, oh my God, I can't tell you, like, it was ecstasy, So when you see this and you see the reaction, and the best part, my husband still tells these tales to people, is like, because obviously she was at home for 4 months or whatever, she would never clench her claws out when I used to hold her, or my colleague Dr. Trisha used to handle her. Somehow she just knew that we were friends, and she could climb on to anything. You know how monitor lizards are. So on and so forth. And then we had Choti, which was a monkey that came to us. That she had another very devastating story. But I started understanding pain in animals more better. And this monkey was got from Alibag. She had a torn arm because a big male monkey tried to attack her. She got into a fight and they were actually going to tear her into pieces. So she landed up in a very troubled state to me. We had to amputate her hand in the whole thing because it got gangrenous. And every video that we took of her, she was just tearing. You know, her eyes were only speaking pain, and it was so overwhelming to see a little baby of that age who was just basically barely not even like 25 days old to go through that traumatic pain. And how we operated her, how she came out of it. She's at Kalote in our shelter right now, and she's one of the most adorable children. Like, she's becoming big now, but all the other babies that are found, so we find a lot of babies that come to us which are orphaned because their mothers get electrocuted or bitten by poisonous snakes or whatever, whichever the forest department or people find. Sometimes because people know that we are rehabbing these monkeys, they come to us. She actually mothers all the monkeys there. So it was amazing, and it's amazing to see the warmth that she gives. And she still is sort of not very functional from one part where her hand is bitten off. That leg also bears a paralysis thing. She went through a lot of sessions of exercise, acupuncture, for her to reach that state of being able. So there are so many examples I can cite. Then there was a cobra, there was a python, and of course, like I said, along with dogs and cats which can vocalize, and we can grade their pain. I started understanding even birds, like for a matter of fact, can to a certain extent vocalize, especially birds of prey come to bite you if they have a broken leg or whatever. But it was very amazing for me in this whole time to always understand how reptiles, turtles, tortoises, snakes, how they are able to express pain. So I'm doing a lot more work with wildlife related to reptiles, especially snakes. In fact, a few months ago, in the month of last year, we did a small surgery in a cobra who was actually I think he was hurt by a JCB or while digging, and it affected his head. Then there was a cobra with a mongoose fight where this cobra lost his eyesight. But how important is pain management? Because that animal was got to me immediately after it was rescued. It had whole blood on its face. We have to check for poison gland damage, because see, these animals will be useless if their glands are ruptured, because they will never be able to get prey easily. And what happens is the poison also from the gland starts digesting the area around it, because it's got a digestive enzyme in it. So there are so many intricate things that you understand, and because you're inundated with these kind of things, you explore more out of the textbook, you explore more, you reach out to more experts. So we got crocodiles in our shelter. We had an albino monkey which is blind. So I did so much work with them, and I found that we are missing out a lot of things which actually help us balance the ecosystem. And I think it also is very important for us to do more work with wildlife as well. But of course, wildlife is only my passion and I don't get paid for it. But I think we are still adding so much to the universe when this release happens, because one snake released in a place back balances the ecosystem so much more than what you can even imagine. So
you want to mention a little bit about that, because how snakes contribute to the ecosystem is a very important topic which we don't often get to learn of.
Yeah, so also there's a very important thing that I learned while I was doing all this was I met an expert from the US, Dr. Izzy. He has done documentaries, and he's also done a thing on wildlife, on history, on Discovery, I think. He came for a very short duration of time, and he interned with us and stayed back at our shelter also. And there was a lot of interesting things that I got to know from him, like when you catch a snake from a particular area, you're not supposed to release it in a different area because you're overbearing the ecosystem with another animal which doesn't belong there. So it kind of is a mismatch. So a lot of people who actually rescue do not understand. They rescue and then they just release it anywhere, which is not actually the way things should be done. So a lot of times you need a lot of education to even be a rescuer, rehabber, or a releaser, because we have a lot of things that are upon us that we actually weigh down the ecosystem badly sometimes. So a lot of understanding is required when you are into helping animals also. It's very important. Then I had the good fortune of visiting the chimp center in Florida, Seva Chimps. I worked with Dr. Besner. It was an amazing two days I got with that, to work with chimpanzees, to understand how animals are tortured everywhere, how much pain they go through, and these wise animals, these intelligent animals, and you'll not believe like the kind of cages these people have for those powerful animals, because these animals sometimes are kept captive for half of their life and then they want to be released back. Some of these animals are animals which are tortured with bestiality. It's very famous, like a lot of people do that, shave these animals and they use them for the wrong reasons. And these animals are so intelligent, and how they get affected. So how everything is controlled in the shelter was so amazing. There was one animal which you would never break up toys, and yet he used to be so angry because he was kept captive, and he would bang things on the wall, and this pain, emotional pain, physical pain, is something that is very, very profound in animals, especially higher species. And the more you work with higher species, the more you understand how they express pain, and how much torture and even emotional pain those animals have. It's not only dogs, cats that we are dealing with, but pain in all species. And I think as high ranked intelligent species that we are, somewhere if we don't really actually, now even after being exposed to so much of this COVID, and also a lot of people of us understand that karma is coming back to us, which I too really strongly believe, because I am a vegetarian, and not that I don't respect people who are eating non-veggies, because it's they're in their own space. But somewhere I feel that environment and protection and all, they are huge terms. We have to start with smaller things in life. I think that's very, very important as far for me I'm concerned.